Our biggest profit makers so far this season have been season-long bets in everything. We just closed out baseball season-long bets. Aaron Judge to win the home run crown paid us big time. We're up over 100 units on the year, and we're going into NBA season-long bets. Basketball is my favorite sport and the sport that I am most profitable in. I got really strong leans. I don't understand a lot of these lines that are being offered, especially on the win total over-unders. So we're going to jump into a bunch of those, but I have a few extra picks sprinkled in. 14 different picks. We're going big, but this is season-long stuff. 25 units on the line. We risked about 20 units in baseball and ended up majorly profitable. We'll do 25. We will bet throughout the season, but a big chunk of these unit plays are going to be on the win totals for the over-under, so that by the time the summer rolls around, you got a little extra cash. So let's dive right in, first with the over-under team totals, and we're going to look at last year's standings a lot of the time to choose how do we feel about these lines. I don't understand how they're made. The first one, we're going in alphabetical order. There's only one way. Cleveland Cavaliers. I love Evan Mobley. I've stocked up on his rookie cards. I highly recommend you do that while you can. I don't think he even scratched the surface of his potential last season. And then he got banged up at the end of the year and they faded a little bit. That will not happen again. They have Garland who's going to improve. Jared Allen is still very young. And they add Mitchell. They make the big swing trade. There's nothing this team doesn't have. Rubio might even come back off the bench and be a facilitator. They had 44 wins last year. That includes them getting banged up at the end of the year. They could have easily finished in the upper 40s last year if not for injuries. And this year the line is at 47.5. Explain this to me. Over 47.5 wins for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I think they get to 50 without any real problem, and I think it might be worth looking at alternate stuff like them to be a top seed at some point, but we're not putting that in quite yet. I really like the Cavs. 2 units on all of these over-under plays, by the way. 2 units on every single one of them. The next one is Dallas. The Dallas Mavericks. This team didn't change fundamentally, but last year they racked up 52 wins. And I thought that Luka came in a little out of shape for the first probably 10 to 20 games of the season. He looks like he's in monster shape this year. They also get Tim Hardaway Jr. back for a full season. He was hurt. He means a lot for floor spacing. Christian Wood is there, who is their second best player now. They have a full season of Spencer Dinwiddie, who I think is a good secondary ball handler. Sure, they lose Brunson, but Dinwiddie will ease the blow of that. And JaVale McGee. He's a champ, and he's better than Boban. Their line is at 48.5. They're expecting them to be that much worse? I think they probably improve just because Luka is in better shape. We'll get back to that towards the end of the video, but Mavericks over 48.5 wins seems juicy to me. The next one is the easiest one on the board to me. This one makes no sense. I almost feel like I'm identifying a trap here, but I'm going to dive right into it if so, and if health is the reason, then fine. But the Nuggets line is 50.5. They won 48 games last year. Hammer the over. They have Jamal Murray coming back and Porter Jr. coming back. They have Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who is a good role player. Bones Highland is getting better for them. They signed Bruce Brown from the Nets, who has played in playoff games in a rotation. They got Ish Smith. He's a veteran. They have the immortal Jeff Green, who somehow puts up a 40-point game every year out of nowhere. And you're like, oh yeah, Jeff Green is in the NBA. Yes, he is. Oh, and by the way, they have the 2-time MVP. So what are we looking at here? Why are they only 2.5 wins projected higher when Jamal Murray, a borderline all-star, is coming back to lead them when last year it was just Bones Highland and some guards I literally can't even remember. Campazzo? I mean, this team should be challenging for the best in the league. And 50.5, boy, it feels low. Are they assuming regression from Jokic? Are they assuming that Porter and Murray just won't stay healthy? I mean, maybe they'll be managed, but anything they get on the wing compared to what they had last year, huge improvement. Nuggets over 50.5. 2 units, but you could smash that if you really wanted to. The next one, we're going down the list a little bit, but I really do like this team. They're trendy. Their number did go up quite a bit because they only had 23 wins last year, and this year the line is at 29.5. But I like the Detroit Pistons, and this is honestly a Cade Cunningham bet. I think he needed a rookie year. He looked pretty good, and I think he's really special, and we just didn't all the way see it last year. I love Jaden Ivey for them. Also, just spark of athleticism, and you can stagger those guys so that one of them is on the court at all times. Cade is the guy, but Ivey's going to bring life to that team. Sadiq Bey can space the floor. He's only getting better. Bojan Bogdanovic, floor spacer, added to that team, a nice veteran. They pay Marvin Bagley, who I think needed a change of scenery really bad. I don't know if he's ever going to live up to his contract, but the contract isn't relevant for win totals. He should improve there. Isaiah Stewart is there. They got Alec Burks. He's a good veteran on the wing. They lose Jeremy Grant, but he was traded anyway. They didn't really have him, and they didn't know how to use him. This is really just a bet on Cade improving big time, which I think you should get in on. Over 29.5, I'm not asking the world. I mean, the Knicks won 37 games last year. You think the Pistons can't be what the Knicks are? I think they can. Next one, Miami Heat. We're going under. I didn't see any improvements to this roster. Lowry is not getting any healthier or younger. I really like Kyle Lowry as a player, but I just don't see him staying on the court, and they could manage him just to get to the playoffs, because last year he ran out of gas, and I just don't see that situation getting any better. They didn't make any improvements to the roster. PJ Tucker is gone. Haywood Highsmith, you know that name? Me either. Number 1 on the depth chart at power forward. He might not start, but as of right now, you go to ESPN.com as we're recording this, Haywood Highsmith. That's what this team is dealing with. Duncan Robinson couldn't scratch the surface of playing time in the playoffs, even though they paid him a huge contract. I think he's a floor spacer and he's nice. He has a good podcast, but I don't necessarily know that that situation is going to figure itself out. Tyler Hero is good. I get it, but they won 53 games last year. Somehow they were the 1 seed. Everyone acknowledges that they overachieved last season. Now you lose PJ Tucker on the wing. I think they're going to go down by more than 3 wins. So I'm taking under 49.5, and I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, especially if there's any injury to Jimmy Butler or Bam, it's going to be a really hard season for them. And if there's not, I just see them being a mid-40s team, and they'll be a playoff team because they're tough and really well coached. I can't see them being a number 1 seed again. I mean, that seemed so fluky even last year. Next, we're going back over. Hype it up, the Zion train. New Orleans Pelicans, over 43.5. Everyone has this. Everyone. I'm not breaking ground here. But the Pelicans, I mean, why is this line 43.5? They won 36 games. It is a big jump. But this team is so different than they were before. A full season of McCollum, a full season of Zion. We haven't seen either of those things. Ingram will come back with less responsibilities, which is really important. And by the way, the thing no one talks about when they say this over, everyone talks about the Suns series and how they looked really good. They fought, they got a taste at the playoffs. All that is very relevant. But Herb Jones was amazing for them last year, especially defensively on the wing, and can guard bigs and can move around. Year 2 for him, I think Herb Jones is going to make a big leap. And you're going to see 4 really good players. And then you got Valanciunas in the paint. That's a really rock-solid 5 that they have. Then you got Alvarado being a pest off the bench. He's going to have confidence coming off of last year. You got a full year of Larry Nance, who's a good defender. They have a lot of really good defenders on this team. They got Dyson Daniels in the draft. He wasn't my favorite draft prospect, but he's an interesting Swiss Army knife on a team that you don't even need extra things, right? So I think this team is good. I think they're well above a 500 team. So 43.5, hammer that over. 43.5 for the Pelicans. Next up, we're going up the win totals for this one. But the Sixers, another trendy one, over 50.5. What I don't understand is they won 51 games last season. They didn't even have a healthy Harden. They didn't have Simmons at all. So that trade doesn't really mean that the win total should change, right? I mean, you went from 0 Simmons to injured Harden. So it's not like we're altering anything there. And they finished with 51 wins. Now, you could say that Embiid might not stay healthy for a full season, and I will grant you that. But that's the risk you run on any of these bets, really. And Embiid is so good, and Harden coming back looking healthy. And more importantly, I think Tyrese Maxey is going to make mass improvements to the point where James Harden doesn't have to do everything. Maxey's going to handle the ball a lot. And by the way, we hated on the Heat for getting rid of PJ Tucker. Guess where PJ Tucker is? Philly. And so that, for them, having that toughness so Embiid doesn't have to be the guy getting into the fights, man, that is important for them. They overpaid him too, but like we said before, the contracts don't matter for win totals. Over 50.5, just do the same as last year with a full year of Harden, a full year of PJ Tucker, and improvements to Tyrese Maxey. I don't see why this team wouldn't be better. Barring injury, that's the risk, I suppose, and I guess that's factored into the lines. But I'm taking Sixers over 50.5. I won't be shocked at all if they're a 1 seed. I think they'll probably be a 2 seed behind the Bucks, but we'll get to that in a minute. Raptors going north of the border. We the North. Over 46.5 wins. This is a bet for one man and one man only. Otto Porter Jr. Just kidding. Scotty Barnes. He is so good. I don't know if people understand how good he was last year. It reminds me a lot of when Anthony Davis came out of Kentucky, and not this play style necessarily, but you look at his Kentucky stats and you go, okay, he does a little bit of everything. He's a nice player. This guy could be good. And you look at Scotty Barnes at Florida State and you were like, yeah, he fills the sheet up. I don't know if he's going to be a great scorer or defender or what he's really going to do. And then he comes into the league and he just crushes. And you're like, oh, these stats didn't really tell the whole story without watching him play. You watch Scotty Barnes play last year and improve throughout the year, and you realize that you're looking at a guy who I think most improved player. I didn't bet on it in this video, but I think if you're looking at anybody, he is the guy to look at to take a huge leap. I think he could be an all-star this year. I think he can lead this team, and then the rest of them, you didn't get a ton of improvement around the roster, but the improvement is internal. And they didn't lose Pascal Siakam, which a lot of people thought they would have. And they won 48 games last year, and the line is 46.5. Now, I'm hating on some teams for not improving very much because the teams around them did improve. That goes for the Heat. But with the Raptors, I really just do think that Scotty Barnes is going to improve so much that it's like getting another player. Also, they did get Otto Porter Jr., and they got Juancho Hernan-Gomez. If you got Bo Cruz, you can't lose. That's what the kids say. Raptors over 46.5. Last one for win totals, and then we got a couple more to sprinkle in. Wizards under 35.5. I looked at this one long and hard because they won 35 games last year, and that was without half a season of Bradley Beal. And they didn't get that much worse. The roster is mostly the same. But I looked at this specific record with Beal in the 40 games that he did play, and they were 17-23. So even with him, they weren't really doing a whole lot. You're betting on Porzingis to not stay healthy. That seems pretty safe. And that win total of 35 last year included a red-hot start. If you remember when the people thought the Wizards were actually pretty good, they were started 10-3. 10-3. So that means the rest of the way, they went 25-44. That is a recipe for well under 35.5. And by the way, Brad Beal doesn't stay healthy that much. He hasn't played a full season in like 3 years. Porzingis isn't going to stay healthy. They didn't really improve a ton around the rest of the roster. I could see Beal having a huge year. He got paid, great. But even with Beal, the numbers weren't that inspiring. And again, I think everyone else really kind of improved. I think the Pistons will pass them. I think the Magic will probably pass them, even though I didn't bet on it. I love Paolo Banchero, but the win total was just a little bit too high for my blood. I think the Pacers are pretty bad, but the Pacers and the Wizards are probably the two worst teams in the East, I got to imagine. And for that reason, I'm out. Under 35.5 wins. So that's all the win totals we got. Rack them up. A couple more bets. I got a parlay for teams to make the playoffs in the East. We're taking the Cavs. We talked about them. The Raptors, the Scotty Barnes show. Brooklyn Nets. Undervalued. I mean, obviously they should make the playoffs. This team, I think, could be really good, but if you want to bet on the Brooklyn Nets win total over-under, you probably need rehabilitation in some capacity, or a therapist, or both, preferably in the same unit. That would be nice. And then the Sixers, all to make the playoffs. That's Cavs, Raptors, Nets, and Sixers. Just sneak in, plus 114. We got 2 units on that. I like that. Safe. Western Conference playoffs parlay. I'm going with Clippers. There's a lot of risk there, but man, Ty Lue is one of the best coaches in the business. He doesn't really get enough credit. They went above 500 last year without Paul George or Kawhi. They'll bring back Norm Powell for a full year. This team is trendy. John Wall, whatever. You'll see what you get. I mean, he hasn't played in forever, but even if he's a bench guard, it's fine. So I like them to make the playoffs at least. I know the West is good. They'll have to grind their way in, but some people are on them to be like one of the top teams in the West, so making the playoffs isn't crazy. Clippers, Nuggets we talked about, Mavericks we talked about, and Pelicans to make the playoffs. Take the leap, plus 104 for those four parlayed to make the playoffs. 2 units on that one. Last 3 picks. We had to do a points per game later. You have to. We're going with Luka Doncic. I don't really love to take favorites in this category, but Luka is still plus 480. And I just see a world where eventually he's going to be the scoring leader multiple times in this league. I can't imagine a scenario where that doesn't happen. He's coming in shape. I really am on board. I know a lot of people are like, best shape of your life. It's a meme. It's all ridiculous. Fine. But he really looks different. He was chubby last year and had to play himself into shape and was still unbelievable. And you saw what he does in the playoffs. Then he comes back ready and raring to go in October. There's going to be hell to pay for other people. He also has some better floor spacers around him. He does lose Brunson. That's not great. But you get Hardaway back, who should space the floor and give him a little more room. And you have Christian Wood to take the pressure off him because you can't double because Christian Wood's pretty good. And when they're on the floor together, it's going to be a problem for defenders. I really do like Christian Wood. So the loss of Brunson might increase the usage of Luka, which is insane. I don't even know if that's possible for his usage to go up, but it might happen. And with better floor spacing and him just improving, by the way, and being in better shape, I'll take the flyer on points per game for Luka. Plus 480, 1 unit on that one. Also throwing 1 unit on a team to win the Western Conference. We talked about them. If you can't tell by now, I really am a fan, and I think they're undervalued. The Denver Nuggets. If they can stay healthy and Jokic can perform at the level he has, and by the way, Jokic could get better with better players around him. His assist numbers could go up. His rebounding numbers could go up because he doesn't have to do as much. Maybe his scoring goes down, but maybe not because you can't double, triple team him all the time. You can't do that when Jamal Murray is there. Remember what Jamal Murray did in the bubble? We were starting to talk about how he is on the Donovan Mitchell level, and so if he didn't get hurt, would teams be offering up 5 first-round picks for Jamal Murray? If we were talking about him like that, now he's coming back to join this team. Think about it. That's how much this team should improve. Then add Porter in. And all the people we talked about before, Nuggets to win the West. The West is wide open, by the way. The Suns have a lot of question marks. The Grizzlies, Jaren Jackson is hurt. The Warriors are great, no doubt about it. Mavericks are good. Jazz are gone. Then it's the Nuggets from last year's standings. You got the Timberwolves, but I don't believe in the 2 towers kind of thing, unless it's Lord of the Rings. Pelicans probably aren't ready to win. Clippers have a lot of question marks. Nuggets are plus 850 to win the West. Give me Jokic. He's the most fun to root for, by the way. Plus 850, Nuggets to win the West, 1 unit. Last pick. You got to pick someone to win the finals. You have to. And this one seems simple to me. I thought they would win last year. I predicted them to win last year. Last year, I actually predicted a finals rematch from the year before. Didn't happen because of injury, in my opinion. I like the Bucks to win the NBA Finals. Not enough people talking about them. Giannis is still Giannis, by the way. The only reason he didn't get the MVPs lately is because they just get sick of giving it to people multiple times in a row. I won't be shocked if he gets it again this year. They go back to him. And Middleton is going to be back. To me, that's the only reason they didn't run through last year. The Celtics were very good. They really were. But I don't think they would have beat this Bucks team if Middleton were healthy. I don't. And so I know the Bucks will be there, barring a Giannis injury. They're going to be in the Final 4. If they don't make the Eastern Conference Finals, I'd be pretty surprised. I think they're better than the Heat. I think they're better than the Celtics with the coaching turmoil that they have. I think they already were better than the Celtics if they were healthy. Sixers is interesting, but Giannis is just a problem. Raptors maybe aren't quite there yet. The Nets, who knows? Hawks, Cavs, all these kind of teams. I think you're kind of getting a favorite that isn't marked as a favorite right now, but they should be. And once we play 5-10 games and Giannis goes 40-20-10 in one of them, you're going to go, oh yeah, of course this team should win the NBA Finals. So I'm getting the Bucks at plus 650 to win, and at worst, they're going to get really far and you can hedge it. But I believe in Giannis all the way. Giannis is back. I believe in a lot of people, as you can see here. 14 picks, 25 units on the line. We've been hot. Follow me at MikeTheMush Sports on Twitter and Instagram because I throw some more picks on there. They don't count towards the totals. We're up over 100 units on just the video picks. But there's some juicy stuff in there, some same game parlays. There's going to be a lot of player props in basketball as we get closer. We'll see what comes up. Twitter and Instagram at MikeTheMush Sports. Like and subscribe to the channel. There's more videos coming. We do the weekly football picks plus some fantasy football stuff. We're going to do a little more UFC, and maybe some boxing as the year goes on when there's big events. We got a lot of stuff coming. I want to fill up the channel with content. I hope you enjoy it. We'll see you next time. Peace out. Go Knicks!